Hello and welcome to Around the Lens episode 78. I'm your host, David J. Murphy. Around the Lens is a live, weekly visual journalism roundtable show coming at you every Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. I host this show with my co-host, Zach Roberts. Zach!
Hey, Dave. If you want to know more about us, you can head over to aroundthelens.com. You can follow us on Facebook at AtL Podcast, on Instagram at Around the Lens, and on Twitter at A Round Lens. So yeah,
Thank you,
lots of
Zach. Every way, every possible way.
Mm-hmm.
And I also host this show with my second co-host, coming at us from Hawaii, Ron Hamilton. Ron.
Just want to remind everybody, you're watching the highest rated roundtable visual journalism podcast on the internet.
Not bad, Ron. We gotta get you to say something else, though. I think we'll just say this is Ron from Hawaii. Aloha from Hawaii. Because you're in Hawaii. Our panelists this evening, and I just want to let everybody know, I've been meaning to push out the winner or winners of Carl Johnson's book. I've just been a little bit tied down. What's going on? But I'll probably end up doing that soon. Don't know when. Don't pin me down to a date or time, but I'll do it. And we'll push out some winners, and you'll get some books. So that's what's going on. But just quick update. That contest is pretty much over. If you didn't participate, then you're done. And then we'll probably have another contest in July, maybe, if I can get some free stuff, or maybe Zach can get some free stuff, or Ron can get some free stuff.
I'm working on it.
Or maybe Jane. Whoa! Look at it! It's Stephen Swofford coming in.
The darkness.
At the last minute. Well, we'll let him get his lighting situation set up. And while he does that, let's introduce Jane. Jane, tell us about yourself.
Well, here in Texas, we say howdy. So howdy from Corpus Christi, Texas. My name is Kathleen Gregorio, and I'm a freelance writer, photojournalist, and I'm also a freelance videographer. And I'm currently working with Corpus Christi Business News. I'm one of their regular writers and also photographers. I do my own photography, of course. And prior to this, I've been a radio DJ for some college radio stations in San Antonio. I've also worked several years in the call center industry, and I feel like my experience having been in customer service has sharpened my fact-finding skills to help facilitate the spilling of guts whenever I do interviews. So I currently write about the local businesses in Corpus Christi. Many of them are the mom and pop shops that are having to compete with a lot of the big box stores, and we try to tell their story and also try to help them get more exposure, so that way our community can support more of the local businesses.
Okay, great. And our second panelist this evening, Stephen Swofford. Stephen, tell us about yourself. And Stephen doesn't have any audio. Woo! Great. All right. Already starting the show off to a great start. Yeah, no, now you're muted. And can we hear you now? Can't hear you, buddy. You troubleshoot that along with the show. Stephen is a returning panelist. So if you want to know about him, go to aroundthelens.com.
We'll have a
little thing.
Yeah, we'll have a
there's a section specifically for panelists, and he can go on there and he can read all about Stephen Swofford. Was that what you're gonna say, Zach, or do you have another in the show notes?
Yeah, he has a book coming out called Shooting from the Hip. We're gonna be doing an interview with him. What's going on with him chatting right now? So
okay. Well, Zach and Stephen are going to figure that one out, and I'm going to run the show, which, by the way, you may notice the background is a little bit different. You may even hear my son in the background. We are currently in Houston, Texas with my wife's family, so exactly sounding or looking the way they normally do. I'm going to E3 tomorrow, the Electronic Entertainment Expo, so I'm leaving from here. But anyways, that's beside the point. Let's get on with the show. We got a lot to talk about tonight. Our first topic of the evening, let me open up my show notes here, is all about mainstream media. CNN specifically, but other organizations as well. Getting caught up in this sort of, if you will, of essentially opposing protesters that were at the London terror attacks. After the London terror attacks, basically they kind of corralled these protesters who had signs, and they wanted to get sort of a nice shot of the protesters holding the signs. So they kind of shuffled all the protesters into a special corralled area and filmed them, I guess, and used that, for whatever their broadcast purposes were. And there was some controversy raised by this by Philip DeFranco, of all people, basically talking about, the ethics of posing shots. He was actually referencing the NPPA in that argument. And, not only, maybe saying, okay, but then you had these commentators essentially on CNN who were trying to overlay sort of their own commentary that was making it sound like, oh, they had just found this scene, or they just walked up on the scene. So let me throw it to you panelists. What do y'all think? Let's start with our newcomer, Jane. Jane, what do you think?
Well, when I first saw this, of course, I was outraged, but then I kind of looked into it more because, I'm coming from a videographer standpoint. There's times I've had to kind of, arrange people for lighting purposes, or maybe arrange my camera crew to where, we had the best possible angle. And I just, I researched it into a little bit, and I was, I don't know how, if Snopes.com is a very a verifiable source, but I was reading more about it, and
I believe Snopes reported that they're a verifiable source.
Okay, so I was learning more about it, and the incident, okay, well, my issue is that the person that was doing the shooting, from the mobile phone or from the cell phone, he immediately posted it on his social media and labeled it as, this is what was happening, CNN was staging this, and of course it just opened up this can of worms. But he didn't he didn't investigate like the real behind the story. He kind of put his own spin on it. And like looking at Snopes, the website, they were talking about there was an actual organization that was sympathetic to the victims, and they were actually there, and it's just that, spreading rumors, taking one image and not really going behind the scenes of the fact. It's so easy for people to judge based on that one image, that one video. And so I don't believe that, if for mainstream media, I don't believe that they should, stage, any kind of news report. But at the same time, what this individual did, it kind of was skewed. It didn't tell the whole story. So that's my take on it.
Okay. This is where I would also go to Steven for his thoughts. Steven, do we have audio on you yet, buddy? Oh, okay. Let's throw to Ron. Ron?
I'm in favor of fake news. I don't see the problem.
No.
Yeah, what's the big deal, right?
But seriously, folks. Yeah.
So, I mean,
it looks like, what's that?
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying it looks like much ado about nothing. I don't think CNN was staging anything at all. It looks like the police had the people corralled off in an area. They finally said, okay, you guys come over here. We'll let you guys shoot for a minute. And so CNN took advantage of it. Here, you guys get over here. Let's get a shot real quick. Lazy. It looked bad. Bad optics is never good for the media. However, we're not going to go scream fake news, fake news. I believe it was a legitimate story. The protesters were there on their own accord. They weren't there set up by CNN, I don't believe. Now, it looks bad and certainly to be avoided. However, if you're in a rush, I could totally see CNN over there. They're trying to get the story. They can't get in there. The police have everything walled off. They can't get a shot of the people. Finally, the police say, okay, here you go, guys. Come over here and get your interview. You got 5 minutes to get in and get out. Okay, great. I'll take my opportunity. Rather than trying to find another time and place, something like that. Look, we got to get in. We got to get our story filed. We got to be first to file. So that's probably what happened there. And it got a guy with a cell phone making things look bad, like what Jane said, putting his own spin on things. Oh, look at this fake news. And of course it spreads like that.
Right. So, I mean, I'd only seen the initial report. I had not seen the report that actually Zach brought up, which was, debunking essentially this whole report. Interesting to see kind of both sides of the story, and that ultimately it seems like the police were the ones who were actually orchestrating this, not the news media, right? Right, Zach?
Yeah, so I mean, what happened was, if you go over TV News Storytellers.com has, which is kind of an industry insider publication type of thing, has kind of a breakdown of what actually happened. Not only we have this problem all the time where we have, whether it be citizen journalists or whoever trying to do stories about how fake CNN is or fake any reporters are, taking things out of context, overhearing conversations and publishing them and making it seem like it's something that's not. It's happened a bunch of times. What happened was the police let the protesters finally through the cordon because the protesters wanted to show the news media their signs. The CNN reporter, actually what she's doing, if you actually see what she's doing and where the camera is pointed and where she's doing her live stand-up, is actually trying to move people out of her stand-up, because if you see where the shot is, it's halfway through her shot. It's just not, it kills her stand-up that she was already in the middle of trying to do. I've had this explained to somebody else who knows the CNN reporters and stuff like that. And so, yeah, it's another, there's been a bunch of different places now that done this. I mean, the only time I've ever heard of actual staged photo ops were sadly by the exact media set that claim that this is a setup, whether it be, I think the Daily Caller is one of the ones that really set it up. Breitbart's done a bunch of them where they claim that, I believe they did they claimed an event in Toronto had, or Ottawa, I think it was, had like thousands of people at it and only had 30 people show up, and then they shot it in a certain way. I mean, this is kind of an old hack thing, and it feeds into, now that there's this kind of desperate hate for CNN, this is the big reason why this story just went wildfire on both sides, whether it be kind of the far left wing that hates CNN for some reason, and then the crowd and the Trump crowd that hates CNN because, well, the Donald told them to hate it. So, this is not surprising. I mean, if you watch the video and just, look where the camera's pointing, look at what she does. I mean, with a voiceover that tells you what's happening, yeah, sure, it looks like that. I can see that. But, doing enough of these shoots and being around people doing stand-ups, like, first off, I've never heard of or seen anyone do this. I've probably been the photographer or videographer at probably, 100 of these different types of things where protesters, are either there or not. And yeah, the most you possibly would do is just be like, by the way, my shot's over here. If you want to get in the shot, then this is where it is. And even that, I personally wouldn't necessarily do, but like, because but it's doable. If you want to tell people where the shot is looking and where the camera is going to be, then that's not terribly horrible if they're there already.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I could go on more about it, but I think it's not just a big ado about nothing. It's part of the fake news, the counter fake news war narrative that's going on between the kind of quote unquote mainstream media and Breitbart and I use Breitbart in the way of like Daily Caller, all of these places, which Daily Mail is part of that cycle. They literally publish these things all the time. I mean, Daily Mail is about as reputable as I can't think of anything
as a Daily Mule.
No. That would be a huge honor to the Daily Mail to put him up in that rank. And by the way, Snopes, yes, 100% reputable. I'm actually friends with one of the editors. If you see something there, they have some of their top researchers. They're crazy good. So you can always rely on them, I would say. So
awesome. Does Stephen Swofford has a opinion on this matter?
I don't know if you'll be able to hear it. Can you hear it now?
Yes,
you can hear it.
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey, Stephen, there's a problem. There's a problem. We can hear you. If you could just mute your mic.
No.
I don't have anything interesting to add though, because I was so flustered trying to get all this to work. I don't have anything. I think it was all covered anyway. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll say on the next one.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, staging is never allowed, or really authorized, or it should be done because it just well, one, it's against the MPPA rules and regs and kind of the ethics guidelines, completely unethical. And honestly, in a protest, I mean, there's a million different moments and situations going on that are far more interesting than anything it could possibly staged, right, Zach? I mean, authentic moments. So,
yeah, I can't imagine why they would want to stage something in a protest. I mean, that's one of the easiest shoots you can have. You just point your camera and moments happen.
I mean,
people usually will play up for you.
Well, I think part of the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think part of the problem was the police had them cordoned off where they couldn't get a clean shot.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And the only way they could is if they had to open the gate.
So the live shot, the purpose of them standing there is the live. So what the live shot was, what they had behind them, that was the London Bridge. That was where the attack happened. That's why they wanted an open background. They actually want that shot. They don't want protesters in front of it. So if anything, to me, the way I read it and also what I've heard is that that they were trying to move them out of the shot because we don't want to see a bunch of staged protesters, what looks like staged protesters waving, you know, printed out signs or whatever, like, you know, so many protests have, you know, mass produced signs when the story is actually down the street, at least the one that they're talking about. So if you turn around and go right behind you, you can see the area where the attack happened. And there's a bunch of, you know, people with signs. It's not a shot. That's my understanding of what it is. And I've seen this, like I said, I've seen this a million times. I covered it back down in New York City when we had the biggest one that I can think of is when we had that building collapse that exploded and then collapsed down in the East Village. There's like all these police cordons and people were trying to get in front of them, not to wave signs or anything, but just to get in front of them to see. And, you know, the press was like losing their minds because the police kept actually letting residents get into the shot and get around. So, you know, that's why you try to move people around and be like, no, I'm trying to get the shot that's actually behind you. So anyway.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and before we move on to our next topic, let's introduce Stephen. Who's Stephen Swofford?
Stephen Swofford is finally recovering from some technical issues, and I'm a staff photographer at the Daily News Record in Harrisonburg, Virginia, formerly of Watertown, New York, finally free, and that's
Zach's old stomping ground.
I'm close to it. So and they've ignored two times that I've applied there for 2 different jobs. So
we know who got the job. Wait, Watertown or where's that or Stephen's working?
No, Watertown. It's we were talking about this before. So go ahead.
You didn't put a good word in for Zach when you left? Come on, man.
Actually, I don't think Watertown's hired anybody since I left.
Oh,
really?
Yeah, so they're in dire times, and you know, as everybody is. But I'm gonna restrain myself from talking too much about it. But
hey, what do you care? You're long gone, man. There's no way. Burn that bridge, man. Just burn it.
I
Pour the gasoline on it and light a match.
I talk bad enough about upstate New York for both of us, so don't worry about it. Go ahead.
Yeah,
go ahead, Stephen.
It's really, I mean, it's upstate New York, so there's not a whole lot of good, I think, to be said about it. I really hated it up there, and really the whole town only exists because of there's a military base there, so it's a whole lot of military guys, and that's about all there is.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you have you have a book coming out though, Stephen.
Oh yes,
I do.
Don't you? Oh, who am I thinking of? Something else?
It's news to me.
Yeah, you just got a book deal, Stephen. From Zach
Different Stephen. I'm sorry about that.
Fantastic! I can't wait to read it.
Yeah. No. So ignore the previous statement. I mixed up my Stevens. I'm really sorry about that.
Yeah, it happens. You know, there's so many Stevens out there.
All these.
Man.
Anyway. People, once you know people through social media, and that's like you never actually meet in person. It's all just first names, and it's like, okay. Anyway, I apologize for that. I also apologize to the other Stephen. Sorry, we will be talking.
I got really excited for a second there.
I think you've just inspired Stephen to get a book deal going.
You should.
Yeah.
Stephen, if you did a book, what would you do it on?
Oh, well, I tried to do a book a couple of years ago about my time in Nepal. I was there around the earthquake, I tried to turn that into a book, but I didn't have the money to self-publish, and there aren't a whole lot of photo book publishers out there. So I guess
Did you ever think about using one of the on-demand publishing services like Blurb?
I thought about it. I wasn't super confident at the time. I didn't have a staff job or anything, and I was a little more focused on money than publishing. But I might revisit it come next year, maybe. I don't know.
That's the way to go, at least for me personally. If I were to ever publish a photo book or something, I would do it on something like Blurb or another service, because it only prints the book when people want the book. Otherwise, it just exists online. And I think that's the way to go. You don't have to deal with having stock or inventory or having to have a publisher front you money or whatever. You just, if you want to buy my book, go to this link. There it is.
I'll have to check that out then, because that was what kind of shied me away from it, was all of the money I have to put up front. And it's just a huge gamble, especially for a photo book.
Yeah. You don't get in advance? Come on, man.
Yeah.
All right.
I tried to talk him into it.
Let's go ahead and move on to our next topic this evening. You may have heard about a little event, not very big, not very many people heard about it, but apparently this guy, former FBI Director Comey, was, I guess, interviewed about his time at the FBI, elected leaders at a hearing. And the reason we're talking about this today is because there was one photograph from that hearing that apparently went viral, and that's an overhead shot that shows just the entire, photographers, photojournalists, all surrounding Comey as he's sitting at the table that he's giving his sort of deposition, I guess, or whatever the legalese is as he's talking about his stuff under oath. And so obviously that was viral for one reason, because it's a great shot, but two, because it's a very relevant event that just occurred. So what I want to throw it to you guys is, what do you think of this shot? Do you think it deserves to go viral? Is it worthy? And two, have any of you ever had any experience working in government or shooting these type of or similar type of hearings or any type of government stuff? And go. Let's throw you, Stephen.
Going to
me
go first again.
Going to you, buddy.
Hogging up so much time here.
Right? We'll get you off early.
Actually, the reason that it came to my attention, that photo, was a recent article talking about the demographics in photojournalism, and what a great job that photo does of encapsulating the white male problem of photojournalism. It's all kind of middle-class white guys, and it's just
middle class.
Sea of them.
Sorry.
Well, yeah.
How I wish.
Yeah. I mean, probably mostly in
Once
that
upon
room. I
a
mean, most of those
time.
guys are probably most of those people are probably staffers. So they're doing okay, but they have to, anyway. But yeah, sorry. Continue.
But I think that photo really does a good job of illustrating that issue. It's just a sea of white guys, and I don't know that I'm really the one to be complaining about that as a white guy myself, but
Freaking white people, am I right?
God, I know. But I do think it's a problem, and I don't know. Anyway,
Okay.
it's completely
Is
separate from
it
the
a problem?
issue.
Is this a problem? Let's throw it to you, Jane. Is this a problem, do you think?
It's all on you, Jane. You speak for all women.
Being the only non-white guy.
Jane, you're minority female. What do you think?
Well, Stephen raised a really good issue, but going back to the subject of the photo itself, when you asked Dave if it was, if it deserved to go viral, and if any of us had ever experienced, having to shoot something like that before. Well, okay, first of all, I'm an artist, so the way that the photo was composed, I thought it was beautiful. Like the fact that, that circle of that ring of people, entourage surrounding the Comey, right in the center. I mean, it was just very beautifully composed, and makes me realize how important a monopod is in any in a situation where there's like a media circus. And second of all, like the fact that it was just a timely event, that combined with just the beauty of the photo. I'm not surprised that it went viral, because people will be looking for photos and footage, and that was the most eye-catching photo among the selections available. I've never had the opportunity to shoot like any type of government or federal type of courtroom or interrogation situation like that, but I did have the opportunity to shoot a similar. I was actually trying to find it here on my computer. I think it's on my old hard drive, but I had to shoot a scene where like a group of people had to form a heart, and so I actually had to climb up a ladder, and this crowd, they had to like make themselves like a heart shape within the frame of my camera. So it kind of reminded me of like that kind of shot, but that was an artistic piece. It was staged for art, not for reporting. So that's my take.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a great shot. I mean, just visually speaking, I think it does a really good job. And I think the fact the reporter kind of talked about how they set up like 3 cameras, and when you see the shot from the other side and kind of what went into getting it, I thought it was really cool. They had to stick the pole up to get the shot. I honestly didn't even like take note of the fact that it was, a majority male white group taking the pictures. I think that's just the state of our community in a lot of ways. I mean, we are probably a mostly white male dominated, group. Look at this panel right here. It's 4 white guys and 1 female, So, I mean, I don't think you can like fix something like that. People choose to do what they want to do, especially in this field. I think, this is a tough field to be in, more so than ever, because, Zach can attest probably it's really tough to make money, when you got people, especially as a freelancer, people not paying you, so you have to have sort of a certain drive and also desire to work for next to nothing most times. And I think, I don't know why the demographics skew the way they do. It just seems to be that way. I don't know. Are there any thoughts, Zach, on the demographics of our industry?
I'm actually
they are the way?
I'm actually asking a bunch of people, and we're gonna. By the way, co-host, we're gonna do a show on this in a couple weeks with a women in photojournalism panel. Jane, you're more than welcome back.
Let's have 4 guys talking about women in photojournalism. That'd be great. I would love that.
No, that's the place. Yeah, we gotta have 4 white guys which is I mean, if you remember like 20 episodes in, I think that we had 1 woman and maybe 1 person of color, and I was like, yeah, we got to start mixing this up a little bit, and like we're digging around, and it's difficult, but a lot of it is this is so Wonder Woman just came out this past month. The reason why so many people are talking about the importance of I'd rather anyway. But the reason that we're talking about why that's so important, and why it's so important that a female director did it, whatever, is so that young women have someone to look up to. So you have to see yourself when you're growing up. You have to see yourself in someone to want to do that. I mean, all my heroes growing up are white men, shockingly, as photojournalists. I can't think of a single non-white person that I knew or that I know of, or female for that matter, when I was a kid in the early 90s, seeing the few times you'd actually see photos of photojournalists or whatever. But the other problem too, and I talk about this a lot because my sister and I are a really great example. My sister had a very different upbringing maybe not very different, but a different upbringing than me, because we had a 15-year difference between us. And she grew up, she was able to go to the school, she was able to go to a top school, no loans, no anything, had her internships paid for by her dad, my stepfather. And she's able to go through, and then she has a job working at Forbes, which she earned. I'm not saying anything, but she had that step up where she was able to sing. I never had the money to go to do internships when I was going through school. I had to work, through every single step of the way. So, and that's the way you get jobs. That's the way, especially in this industry, that you get staff jobs, is you work up your way through the photojournalism, internship, system. There's very few people that I know of that didn't go to a PJ school and didn't go to do an internship program and work their way through, that have a staff job working at especially the big wires or some of the really big newspapers. Obviously, there are lots of I'm sure there's exceptions, but you talk to a lot of the big guys, unless they were way older throughout the generation, that's usually the way you get through, and that's the way you can kind of make sure that you have a job. And that's one of the really big reasons you can't make the decision. I mean, especially knowing everything you know about photojournalism, if you're a person that doesn't have even at least a vaguely comfortable a home to go back to or whatever, so you don't get, you only kind of get these voices of kind of middle-class voices going through the photojournalism. Obviously, again, there are exceptions. I'm sure on this panel there are exceptions, obviously. But you don't get a lot of those people going through that system, because you have to go for a job that you're going to be able to pay off the college loans, or that you're going to be able to pay, for life afterwards. I was lucky enough that I have a family support system that I at least could take the risk time and time again. To the first time when I was 26, I got an internship, and thank God it turned into a job pretty quickly. But if that didn't, I guess I would have gone back to working at Barnes & Noble or something like that, and I have no idea what I'd be doing by now, because I just would not have had the finances to pay for gear and pay for, everything otherwise. So, I mean, that's really, so much the reason to me that I've always seen, and that people have told me why no one goes into the industry. And it's one of the reasons why, maybe not affirmative action and things like that, but like that sort of thing is so important to people, to be able to get that half step up into the level of just, I'm going to use the phrase white privilege. So, anyway, that's the end of my rant. I was writing about this earlier, so I kind of had it all in my head to some level. So yeah.
Well, let me ask you guys this, going back to the actual photo itself, I mean, again, do you think it deserves to go viral? I mean, I thought so, just considering, I mean, if this were any other event, though, I don't think it would have. I think this type of photo would have, been probably popular for that day, and, would have maybe have been published on papers, but, I don't think it would have gone viral. Is that with me, or disagree with me, or does it think that,
100%, Dave. It's just like any other thing. When you see the Pulitzer Prizes, when you see any awards, it's not just the photograph itself, the composition and the artistic merit of the photo, but also the newsworthiness of the photo. And that's why this photo is so important, just because of the current events.
Definitely. All right.
But it is a nice photo.
One thing I did want to add to the viral nature of it. Should be noted, I just put the link in the chat for other people to Doug Mills' tweet about it. Like, I assume which is where he first posted it, because usually that's, you get a good photo and you post it. It only has, I mean, I would kill for a tweet like this, but only has 259 retweets and only 547 likes, or hearts, or whatever it's called now. So when we talk about something going viral, this is something that I always find important. Is it's really great. Often, you hear these stories about people, photographers or whatever, have some photo go viral, and they don't benefit in any way, shape, and form from it. Like, all the ways that I saw this photo, it was on Reddit, it was on Imgur, it was on Facebook, removed. Luckily, I mean, I happened to see either Doug's tweet or a story about the photo first in the original New York Times article. But this is one of those kind of insane things, because we talk about viral photos or viral videos and things like that, and it's so rare that the people that actually did the work and thought this out. I mean, there's a great story I think in the Times about how Doug worked all this whole thing out beforehand, because all these things are perfectly staged. You know exactly where they're going to sit, where the water is going to be on the table, and everything like that. And this is again, it's a testament to the importance of making sure that photojournalists continue having long-term stable jobs, is because you get a photo like this. If I walk into that room, never covering a hearing, I don't get this shot. It doesn't happen. You know, not only because I'm not going to get that access probably, but you know, I'm not going to be able to think this is where everybody's going to crowd around. This is the limitations. The lighting is like that in the back, and I need to know I have to use this lens or whatever. He knew that walking into the room, and that's also why he's Doug Mills at New York Times. But
right, yeah. You know, I thought, you know, Stephen or, you know, Ron or Jane, you know, I think Jane, you already said you haven't had any experience like this. Stephen, have you ever had any experience, you know, not like maybe obviously DC, Capitol Hill, but maybe like local politics or anything like that, or any sort of like government activity whatsoever? Has it ever been something you photographed?
I mean, I've photographed a couple, you know, town hall meetings and things like that. And I've covered, I covered a lot of stuff on the campaign trail last year.
Right.
But that, you know, nothing like that, where there's that much, you know, that big a crowd, and certainly nothing that important, of course.
Okay. Yeah, me neither. I've never done like, you know, hearings or stuff like that. I really have no sort of personal experience doing that level of stuff. But, you know, I gotta imagine it's probably a challenge because, especially, you know, when you get in there, you're shooting the exact same thing over and over again. You know, it's like really just getting facial expressions. And I saw like all the photographs because they used, you know, different shots for the front pages of the newspapers. And I thought it was interesting to see like how they tried to mix up what was, you know, just would be a general shot of a guy, and trying to differentiate between that and other times when he's testified before Congress, where, you know, you get the shot where maybe like his head is in the lower left of the frame. You've got some lights on the ceiling that are, you know, in the center of the frame, or like this shot, or just like behind the scenes shots, or, you know, behind the head shot. I thought, so, you know, definitely interesting to see how they sort of make what looks like, you know, what would be normally a sort of uninteresting subject matter into something interesting.
Yeah.
So,
my dream is one day is to be able to get everyone's shot, like whatever their first shot is, from this, like get every single one of those like 45 photographers that are all bunched around there, and be able to just have like either build like a Microsoft used to have this thing where you could build like a 3D thing if you had different photos from all over the places. I forget what it was called. Or just have like a list. I have just like a scroll down of everyone's angle to be able to build, you know, even build like a bullet time of it, because, you know, they are, if you look at, you know, most of them got, you know, actually it's a pretty good range. I mean, half of them have telephotos on, half of them have wide. I guess, you know, it's obviously they probably have two cameras, you know, one with a 24 and one with a telephoto. But I just think that would be fascinating to be able to do them, because it's like, you know, covering the DNC and covering the RNC, you have literally, I had 15 people within 10 feet of me.
wow.
And all shooting one angle, and like literally you're bunched there for 4 hours not moving, because if you move an inch, somebody's going to take your spot. And so like it's crazy to think though, because what'll happen all the time is just to scroll through and be like, oh my God, they used my shot, and then look down. Oh crap, it was, you know, usually it's Scott Olson for some reason. But I love Scott's work. You know, there's always somebody behind you taking almost the same photo. And like the number of times that I thought somebody else, you know, oh, they used my photo. Oh, no, they didn't. Crap, I'm not getting paid for that. So anyway, sorry.
All right, well, let's go ahead and go to our last topic this evening. We're talking about the perfect camera assistant, or so to speak. And you may have heard of this Kickstarter thing. It's blown up on Kickstarter. Over $1 million last time I checked has been invested by, you know, people who want this item. It's called Arsenal, and from watching the video, the way it works, it seems it plops into I guess a port on the side of your camera, and then it ties into your phone. In theory, it's supposed to, you know, see, understand, and interpret the image that is coming through into, you know, your lens, and be able to give you the perfect settings about how to take that photograph. So if you're shooting waves at the beach, it's going to know, it's going to create slow motion shutter speed, so you get sort of nice motion blur on the photographs. Or if you've got certain shots, it can do like sort of a image stacking thing where it gets like every single focus out of the depth of field, or it can get multiple exposures for an HDR type shot. I've got some thoughts on this, but before I kind of give you my thoughts, I want to see what you, the panel, think about this sort of thing first. Is this something that excites you? Would you invest money in this? Would you buy this via Kickstarter? What's your all thoughts on this? And I'm not throwing at anybody, so somebody jump in.
I would definitely buy it.
You would?
Yes, because well, depending if the price is right, but I
believe it's $150 if you buy it on Kickstarter.
Oh,
that's
actually,
after Kickstarter, good. It's going to go to 40% more.
Yes, that's actually a pretty good deal. I think I might invest in that. But I was going to talk about well, going back to what Zach said. You don't really make a killing on this kind of work field, and I actually work full time. In fact, what I have to do is I work full time as for a major healthcare organization, and I do a lot of prior authorizations. But that's my regular job. My freelance photo and writing, I do this on the side, but what I end up having to do sometimes to catch a story is like I'd have to rush during my lunch break. I'd have to go out and make excuses to my boss that I have to go out and do a shoot. So time is never on my side. So this arsenal from Kickstart would actually be a great time saver for me. It would help me like just go in there, get, not have to fiddle with the lighting and histograms and whatever, and just get the shot that I need and get out the door, get back and clock in time for my lunch break to finish. Yeah. So for me, I think that would be a very useful tool, and the money is worth it. That $150, that's a good price.
Okay. Anybody else? Any thoughts?
If that was, go ahead.
No, after you.
Oh, I just very sure. I mean, if I like moved back up to Alaska and shot a lot more, nature work and stuff like that, absolutely. Especially the just to be able to have the stitching of the photos and taking multiple layers and everything like that. For star trails and probably for aurora photos and stuff like that, this would be a lifesaver. Just to not have to think about it as much, or at least not have to rely on my screen. And I'd like to actually see what the distance is and whether I'd be able to sit in my warm car while the camera is outside in negative 25-degree weather, which is something that I usually have to leave your camera somewhere and put something over it so it doesn't completely freeze up.
There's actually an interesting point you bring up, because I think that this is the first step in the eventual, we're going to have robots that will take the photographs for us, and they just go out, we control them, and they, then we set them on auto, and they go, okay, go photograph stuff. I'll be in the car, and when you're done, come back. So I can process your, the imagery, or they've already processed the imagery and sessioned it, and everything while they were out there. That's the dream, right? We don't have to pick up a camera anymore.
That sounds terrible.
Right? That's the future, man.
Stephen, I think.
I missed this in the notes, so I'm playing catch up now. But I am a little confused how this is different than just sort of the auto mode. Yeah.
Well, it's a bit more in depth. Like I said, auto is sort of using the light scene. Trying to, I think, just gather information about light more so than anything else. And this is actually cross-referencing the image it sees in the lens with what's been already uploaded to the internet, and trying to, or like wherever, it learns, essentially machine learns what makes a good photo. So it may adjust based on that. That's kind of like the theory behind it. I don't know. I'll wait until it's like actually out in the wild before I give a take on it, which, by the way, be happy to review it for Around the Lens. So,
yes.
If the man from Arsenal is listening, send us a copy of it. Send us a beta version. We're happy to give it a dry run. And that's why I said basically in a comment I wrote on Petapixel is that essentially, I want to see what this thing does. But for me personally, I have no need or interest in something like this. I think it's neat. I think it's great if you're, don't have, like I said, the time, or maybe you don't have but a lot of the things that sort of the author describes as sort of being things that like are cumbersome and things you have to think about, the lens and the focus and hyperfocal distance and all this fun stuff and shutter speed and aperture, that's what makes shooting interesting. And that's stuff that he makes it sound like a lot of work, but really you're doing that in an instant, doing that in a second or two. I think if you have, sort of the background of the training or understand how the camera gear works. I don't know. I mean, for me, it doesn't really interest me as the way it's kind of being promoted. But again, I want to see what this actually looks like out in the real world. Maybe there is sort of a benefit to this. I don't know. And what I want to say also, and this is my plug for the Panasonic, because I have to do this every week, there is no compatibility with the Panasonic GH cameras, unfortunately. So, but honestly, you can do a lot of the stuff they described in camera via Panasonic settings. So I wouldn't really have much use for this anyways.
I was thinking the same thing, just that this would be good for beginners. Maybe something my students, something like that would be interested in. But I think a lot of those decisions you make in a split second anyway. As far when you're composing your shot, you're getting your aperture, your shutter speed, you get the distance. You got this lens on, it's going to look like this, okay, and you shoot already. And how does it know I want slow, silky waves? Maybe I want frozen in time waves.
It's going by like what is sort of the most popular, I guess. What
I know
that's
exactly.
what's going off of, not what you want.
Right, exactly.
No, it goes off the different settings. It goes. You have. I'm reading through it, and it says basically different settings that you can choose what kind of look and what kind of thing that you want, and so it kind of fixes that. The one thing I do find interesting is what it seems to be able to do is it notices like the lens aberrations and potentially if your tripod shaking or something like that, and it tries to work around that. So
around the lens?
That's not usually. Yes, it tries to work around the lens. We have a tie-in. But
I feel like cross promotional going.
But like that sort of thing is very nice because usually, like especially when I'm taking like Aurora stuff or long exposure work, unless you have your laptop right there and you're throwing it in your car, you can't really see a lot of those issues until you're back at your computer viewing the things at the monitor. So I mean, like that would be a nice fix if you're doing shots like that where you kind of only have one chance to do it. You don't know. I mean, there's such a wide knowledge. I spent an entire winter photographing Aurora, and I have so much more to learn on how to like get better shots using them. And like something like this would be super duper nice. I mean, like I said, I don't really like. I've never been really good at using these gadgets. So I don't know if I'd end up using it after I bought it. I probably have any number of different things like hanging around my office. But I like what it's doing. What I'd like to see I'd like to see start more of these being built into cameras so that you can not have to buy a separate app. And I hate how everything's starting to be, you have to run it off your phone. So like, that's to me, one of the big things. Like, I don't have to use both my phone, which usually you're lighting up your face anyway, but I'd like to see this moved into a camera if they start building some of these things in there. So, yeah,
I can definitely see if the technology is, worthwhile enough, you'll definitely see this sort of co-opted by the big manufacturers, and it'll just be a setting, just like you have any other setting, I think, in a camera. And I think Ron picked one up when it is a Chinese company copies it.
I just ordered one.
Sure.
You guys talked me into it. I just ordered one.
Well, we got two sales, you and Jane.
$150, and you got to pay $10 extra because you live in America. So $160.
Yeah,
I just backed the project.
You did?
Wait for.
Oh man, you're gonna have to tell us how it is. Wow. All right. Well, there you go.
Kickstarter is not a store.
Yeah, I know, right? But I should get some sort of referral fee for that. I think that's only fair.
It's only fair. That's true.
Steven, we haven't heard from you. Any thoughts on this Arsenal thing? Yeah or nay?
I don't know, man. It sounds a little too Skynet for me. I'm old-fashioned. I mean, I'm looking over like, man, I got to get back into my daguerreotypes. So The less automated, the better. In my opinion.
Did everybody, by the way, see that somebody finally took? And I was joking about this. It was up on Petapixel today. Somebody shot the world's first drone tintype.
Yeah, I hear about
Wow.
And it's fantastic. I was like, how is it possibly sharp in any way, shape, and form? I was trying to get my friend CS, who has a drone and has been experimenting with tintypes, to do one, but somebody beat him to it. So I just,
that.
so yeah.
Yeah, that'd be a fun little experiment.
Yeah.
Next, get a 8x10 up there. You know.
How cool would it be though to do? Because what my dream would be if I was to do this: shoot tintypes of Civil War reenactments with a drone, so you can get those aerial shots that you always dream of General Lee troops moving across the battlefield or whatever. That would be nuts.
Yeah, I know, right? Wouldn't it be great if they had drones back then? Back in Civil War times? Man, that would have been awesome.
Yeah.
Anyways. All right, well, let's wrap up this week's show. Jane, where can people find more about you?
Oh, okay. Just go to 101corpuschristi.com and search for Gregorio, and my bio is up there, as well as a list of all of the articles that I've written, as well as my photos.
Great. Stephen, you? Where can we find your work?
His new book.
No.
Is it me? I missed it.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, the other Stephen.
You can, yeah, buy my new book as soon as I find out what it is. No, I'm at StephenSwofford.com, or the newspaper that I work for is DNRonline.com, but I think we're hidden behind a paywall these days. So unless you're in the Harrisonburg, Virginia area, you're probably not going to want to pony up some money for it.
What? I need to know about local news in Harrisonburg, Virginia.
That's all I got. It's not exciting.
That's what it's all about. We didn't talk about this, but Zach, how's your new computer going, man?
What's that?
Switch over to the PC side, Zach.
I've kind of just started doing the downloading because I have to download like 8,000 gigs, like 200 gigs worth of stuff onto my computer. So I bought a Asus ZenBook. It's a very nice big screen here. It's actually, I didn't know this. This is how good I am at researching. It's actually a touch screen for some reason, even though it doesn't do that whole flip over thing. I'm not quite sure why or how I would ever use that. But yeah, so I like it so far. I really already miss the Apple mouse pad though. And also the keys, even though that has a keyboard that's very similar to the Apple's, the keys are just like, I don't know, a millimeter apart separately. And so I basically have to relearn how to type. Like I type like 60 words a minute. I'm typing like 12 words a minute here. I'm like, like using index fingers almost. Like, so it's going to be a learning curve. But maybe I'll stick with it. I still haven't really decided.
Have you even edited any 4K footage yet?
No, I haven't even done it. I've just actually been so busy doing actual real work that I have to do this. So, but if anybody wants to buy a 13-inch MacBook Pro or a 21-inch iMac, give me a yell.
So this is taking over both those computers.
Yes, I'm gonna get rid of the iMac and I'm gonna get rid of the MacBook Pro. This is probably gonna be my home computer because it's quicker than the equivalent is like a $3,500 Apple MacBook Pro, and that was $1,100. So I'm gonna get rid of that, get another monitor, so I can just hook it up there, and then probably buy one of those little tablet PC things that they have now. They're like $500-600, and whatever I can to just basically do basic photo editing when I'm out and moving. So always carry that with me, but keep that back at the hotel room or something. So
we'll have to check back in with you in a month or so when all those updates are done, and actually we'll use the machine.
Open up the computer and it was 4 gigs worth of updates right off the bat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ron, anything going on with you? Anything new before we sign off?
You can see me at aroundthelens.com. And every now and then you can see me on television if you live in the Philippines. Apart
I
from
haven't
that,
heard of this.
aloha.
What is this around the lens you speak of?
Some guys, white males.
4 white males. I think that's what we're renaming the podcast to be. 4 white males and one lady. Anyways, all right. Well, hey, I want to thank our panelists, Jane and Steven. Thank you so much for taking time to be a part of the show. This has been Around the Lens, episode 78. I've been your host, David J. Murphy. As always, if you want to know about me or Zach or Ron or the show at all, please go to aroundthelens.com. Again, this has been episode 78. We are a group of guys and gals who talk about visual journalism, and I'm trailing off right now. And we are out. I kind of lost my train of thought there.
Oh my God, I can turn
We're still live. Just so you know, we're still live. Zach, we're still live.
Uh-oh.
Why are we still live? Oh, because I haven't.